killing of Tyree. No. So, here's Michael No Less, as I like to call him. His real name is Michael No Less, but I like to call him Michael No Less. And he's here to explain to us as to why racism actually isn't systemic and actually can't persist amongst black communities. So the general premise of his, ridiculous, absurd conception of racism is that white people can only be racist towards other races. Well, first of all, he doesn't even believe systemic racism exists, but he only thinks white people can be racist towards other races. But inside of certain races, they can't be racist. So, obviously, all the cops involved in the death of were black. As a lot of people in the Southeast are. Now, what right-wingers either fail to understand because they just can't comprehend nuance, or are just lying about because they're grifting, which, obviously Michael No Less is. Yeah. Racism is systemic. Right. A very few people in the 21st century are going out to treat minorities in different ways because they're just evil like that. Yeah. Most people just don't realize how systemic injustices and marginalization affect people of color. And we've seen this with Ferguson, because it was one of the most corrupt police forces in the country, and they had all these racial disparities in the criminal justice system, longer sentences for the same amount of crimes, heavily increased traffic stops, disproportionately. And what people like this just lie to their audience about is that, racism that affects people of color more drastically than it does white people, which is called, oppression and marginalization, it can happen within mostly black spheres.
Nichols, an unarmed...
You there? You froze or?
I guess my Wi-Fi is just, acting up.
Yeah.
I'll do my best to continue.
The perennial debate over race and police. Now,
yeah, it wouldn't be perennial and continuous if we actually replaced the police with a more effective system like social work, which was designed to de-escalate situations with a proportional amount of, verbal and physical direction. But, okay.
This case is different from the other prominent officer-involved killings that had preceded it, George Floyd, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, in that not only was the deceased person black, but all of the officers involved in his death were also black. And it all took place in Memphis, a city that is 65% black.
Okay. Yes, because disparate outcomes can still affect black people, even though most of the people in that, local area are black. Like, I don't see what you're failing to understand here. Isn't this a coherent idea in and of itself? Go ahead.
That's what CRT tried to address, that not only people could be racist, so institutions could be racism. Even if they are good intended institutions, they still are part of there is racism in them. So the whole police department, the police or the law enforcement sometimes is very violent or I don't know how to say the word. I mean, it's like an entity within itself. It's like a race within itself. You understand what I'm trying to say here? So it doesn't matter. I mean, if you look at how police, the police were founded just after the Reconstruction to round up black people. That was the whole thing. That's how the police were founded, or how the idea of policing was.
Yeah.
Let's hear this piece of.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, former
and Omar, I'm really glad you brought up that point about CRT, because the critical race theorists, they say, okay, very few people nowadays are being racist for the sake of being racist. It's just that we need nuance. We need to realize that wherever disparate racial outcomes may come about, we need to solve those problems, okay? And it mostly gives, you know, a positive outlook on people. You know, most people are good, you know, decent morally for the most part, but we need to recognize racism where it manifests and actually deal with it instead of, you know, just a bunch of kids coming out protesting, nothing happening, then, you know, the next black guy gets killed before he's even in custody technically, then a bunch of people protesting, and it's, you know, a cycle all over again. Let's get through this.
Congressman, Democrat Mondaire Jones warns people not to be distracted by those facts. If you think...
Wait, what?
Jones wrote, the Memphis police officers had to be white in order to exhibit anti-blackness. You need to take that AP African American Studies course Ron DeSantis just banned.
Yes, because if you actually look into the history of racism, a good chunk of it was reified. The institution of slavery and Jim Crow laws were reified by these, you know, tokenizing black people who thought the status quo was better than actually, you know, ameliorating racism. It's like Candace Owens, someone who's clearly tokenizing her identity for that oil billionaire grift money. And, you know, she thinks the status quo is better than, you know, anti-racism in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone involved was black, but they were still motivated by anti-blackness, which is just another woke buzz term meaning white supremacy.
Yes, absolutely. The institutions we've propped up are fundamentally white supremacist, and we need to make them more egalitarian. We need to tear them down and replace them with a better system.
Point out on social media.
I got a message today for some white people.
Oh, no. Oh, I haven't pre-watched this. I'm pretty sure this is just going to consist of him clip chimping, you know, TikToks, you know, because any just dumb TikToker can, you know, go on the internet and say something careless that they haven't put thought into.
I could go to the good liars on Twitter and get you all these dumb white people saying dumb they don't even know. I could have a whole show on them. So it doesn't really matter. The whole issue is, I want to ask you something, Free. I don't know if you noticed that most of the America First or the racist assholes or the or advocate in some form of dog whistling are Italians and Irish. The people that were oppressed 100 years ago. They were called donkeys and wops. You know, they used to hang Italians in New Orleans like black people. They lynched them like...
Isn't Fuentes Cuban? Nick Fuentes?
He's Italian.
No, he's Mexican, right?
Mexican Italian. And he's saying he's the Pharaoh of the white race. I mean, he would be kicked out if there was a purity contest.
I mean, it's just
like
insane,
we have white people.
Banning,
like,
he's Irish, all of them. I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, and this is also a good argument in favor of, like, well, against racial essentialism, because, okay, you know, conservatives nowadays constantly blame black culture, quote unquote, for, you know, all this gang violence. Well, okay, we've seen this with the Italians and the Irish, and to an extent, the Germans and the Jews when they initially came here in the raids.
Murder Incorporated,
Yeah, because when they're relegated to these inner cities and they have few job opportunities and they've, you know, are essentially born behind the rest of the American populace, where do you think they're going to go to get a leg up? Gangs, who promise them, you know, a good opportunity, but eventually they just end up getting shot. So it's not a race thing. It's a capitalism thing. It's an environment thing.
It's an economical...
Listening, paying attention. I wouldn't mind if you would do this with me. We rub our chests, we find our heartbeat, and we say, we did this. We did this. White supremacy did this. I'm talking about... Police didn't do this.
It's the institution,
Police Department didn't do this.
Yeah. I think what this person's trying to say here is that it fundamentally transcends police. Obviously, you know, police did it, but what the police do is a greater reflection of our institutions and the way they're set up to reify white supremacy as an institution.
White supremacy did this.
So I think this could have been worded more carefully and more thought could have been put into it, but, you know.
These are normal people. They just say what comes to their head. They put on the camera. They don't think it through. But if you realize, there was a study one time in a university where they took these college kids and put some of them as prisoners and some of them as guard. After a week, they started abusing the prisoners. It was a study. It's a famous study. It shows you that people when they have a little power over other people, it doesn't has nothing to do with color anymore, especially your own kind. They would abuse that power on you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was at some sort of Ivy League school. Pretty much all the kids were white, you know, college age.
I read about it a long time ago. It was a very famous study. And all these police officers that did the violence, they've been there 3 or 4 years, so they didn't have no real training. They didn't have no good oversight. I mean, it was like it was a gangland mentality what they did. And when you saw that video, it was shameful because the guy was saying it doesn't have to go. He was saying it doesn't have to go this far. I mean, there's no reason for what you're doing. You know, the whole idea is that institutions sometimes could have a life of their own. So what I'm trying to say here, sometimes if it's not outright racism, it's the institutions that are racist, but not even racist, that are violent driven or intoxicated with power. Once they have that gun and that badge, whatever, they don't see the idea of white and black, whatever it is, because the way they beat him up was unbelievable. And they had another guy, see the guy they shot in California, he has no legs. Yeah, he stabbed somebody, but they say he's trying to get away. Let him, how far is he going to get away? Just let him run around where he has no legs. With his wheelchair. Yeah, let him get tired. Don't shoot him 6 times. You know, I don't understand what's going on with
They're constantly trying to portray them as thugs. Okay, even if that is 100% the case, cops, even when, you know, people are in custody, they aren't supposed to kill guilty people either. You know, that's outside of the cops' purview, okay? Yeah, they bring people to the judge. They're not their own judge, juries, and executioners. And that's what these conservatives deliberately omit, okay? Because, you know, it's fundamentally built on being a horrible person.
Yeah.
Conservatism. So just, you know.
The cops have been arrested.
Yeah.
They're presumed innocent until proven guilty, even though the video evidence that we have is pretty damning. But by the standard of the left, viral nobodies and prominent politicians alike, even if the cops are convicted, it wasn't really the cops' fault. According to...
No, I think it is the cops' fault, but how black people are disproportionately treated in relation to white people, that reflects the embedded racism in our institutions. And it's more of a subconscious thing, because not all people are deliberately, you know, trying to... you know, go to KKK rallies every Saturday night and just lynch the N-words. But, you know, it's deeply embedded in our systems, and we need to extirpate every semblance of it. That's what we're saying.
On the left, the responsibility for killing, and really for all the evils in the world, lies with white people. And they're
literally who is saying that.
You're not white, Michael. You're not white.
The white.
Yeah.
Michael, go take
in a white ethno state, you would not be considered, you know, the pure-blooded.
He's probably 12% Arab. The Arab were in Italy for 700 years. The Moors, they call them the Moors.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I just hate that when they got that jacket. You know when they play golf and they win that jacket. Every new ethnic group, they think they belong now. They wear that white jacket. We are the white people. We are the new white people. We got the deed to the United States. Michael, look at me. I'm whiter than I am. Huh? I'm whiter than I am. Believe me. You understand? And the whole issue is not being black or white. Not everything has to go down in color. These people, they race bait every day. Either every day. What's it called? The Daily Wire. They will attack the
Daily Liar.
The LGBTQ community and race. LGBTQ community and race. This is their bread and butter. That's what they do. And that's what
and you know, it's mostly all just TikToks from users with 2 followers on that platform, and you know, like, they pretty much don't cover actual politics now, besides, you know, vaguely acknowledging, okay, this happened in the Senate, but look at this TikToker, this wokester lib. Isn't she really, really dumb? You know, and that's all their content at this point. Because
they're losing. In the end, the culture, they're going to lose it, because people don't like people say no. People like when people say yes. You can do whatever you want, but don't hurt other people.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you like, as long as it's in your privacy of your home. You can do whatever you want, as long as you keep it to yourself. As long as you don't, as long as your rights doesn't expand to another person's rights. You understand? Yeah. If your rights are within your rights, you could do whatever you want, my friend. I have no issue with you, as long as that I feel safe around you, that I don't interfere in your life. You don't interfere in my life. Then everybody could live and let live. All this Christian, They're all cocks, man. Who are the most of the cocks? All these religious assholes. Remember Jerry Falwell Jr.?
Yeah.
For,
oh my God.
He paid $4 million for the poor boy so he could watch. I would have done that shit for 100,000. Shit.
Yeah. They're all repressed and they're all, you know, up to some weird kids.
What's his name? Matt Schaub from the, what is that, the organization? What is it called? CPAC?
Yeah.
You read about it? He was grabbing the guy's dick while he was drunk. Come on, man. These people are liars, man. They hit.
Yeah, because they're fundamentally self-hating at the end of the day. Like all that, you know, repressed gayness is eventually going to manifest somewhere. You know, especially if it's, you know, with people who don't exactly consent, you know, to having their dicks groped. Yeah. So, you know, Omar, have you seen that list I'm constantly posting on Twitter?
No,
of convicted Republican pedophiles. I'll bring it up later, but let's respond to this.
Has been released. Officers Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith have all been charged with 2 counts of official misconduct, 1 count of official oppression, second-degree murder, obviously the biggest one there, aggravated assault, act in concert, and 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping. The video footage looks very, very bad. There is one question that remains, which is, why did they pull this guy over? They say that they pulled him over for reckless driving. The head of police in Memphis says that we don't have evidence of that yet, so we don't know. Really, the cameras kind of click on as this is happening. So you don't...
Yeah, they should have had their body cams on when he was driving if they wanted to, you know, solidify that charge against him.
Runs away, and then they get him, and they basically just beat this guy to death. He doesn't die on the scene. They don't get him medical attention. He dies later at the hospital. It's really damning stuff. It's hard to imagine these guys are going to get off the hook for it, but...
And you think they should.
Proven guilty, so we'll see if anything comes out on trial as to why they pulled him over in the first place, why this escalated so quickly. One theory that is going around right now, a very politically incorrect theory, is that these cops were hired with lowered standards.
I thought you were all about being politically incorrect, you know, going against the wokesters in PC culture. Wasn't that your whole shtick?
So this is a theory. Law enforcement official Karen Omar says, according to a source within the...
For them, it's a win-win situation. They're going to degrade the victim and degrade the police officers. The police officers were just hired because due to, what do you call it? Affirmative action. They didn't deserve to be police officers, you know? That's what happened when you put black officers. So for them, the right-wing douchebag, I don't say douchebag, it's not a curse, they get to degrade the victim and the police officer at the same time. So it's a buy one get one free for them. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Listen, he's gonna say it. He won't say it.
But they lowered the standards.
Lowered standards, see?
It happens. Whether it happened here, it remains to be seen, but it is being reported by multiple outlets. And this...
Let's raise the standards for actually who can, you know, enforce the law and patrol it. As a matter of fact, let's fundamentally replace it with a better system that's designed to de-escalate situations and keep them from getting violent, wherever that may manifest. Let's adopt more of a social worker mentality, you know... Some people may call it police abolition, but I gotta go mask on. Okay? Let me crank the
We're going to get rid of the ACT. We're going to lower the entry exams to become a cop or to become a firefighter.
That's bad.
Not enough women are in the military. We want more women in the military. Let's lower the physical requirements to get into the military.
Yeah, dude, you're a fortune
teller. An opportunity. They're going to degrade the police officers because they're black, and it's affirmative action. They're just hiring black people because they're black, and they need to fill a quota. You know how liberals are. If they were, you know, they get to vote. They get to win twice. They get to talk twice. They get to degrade the victim for being he's black. He would never have been shot if he was a good white kid. And the police officers, you know, just hire them. You know, affirmative action. They needed to fill the quota. You know, because you know you got to hire black people after Black Lives Matter. You know, you understand?
Yeah, and you know, if the officers were white, his mouth would be absolutely shut about all of this affirmative action nonsense.
Yeah.
It becomes a lowering to the lowest common denominator. And you see this in the right...
Lowest common denominator, wow. Mask off moment.
That's why they did not give us a democracy. That's why they write so disparagingly about democracy. It's why they didn't even give us quite a republic or just a representative democracy.
Remember when they were invading Iraq and Afghanistan and they were constantly talking about how the U.S. was the bastion of Western democracy and how we were free and, you know, gave people immaculate rights and we treated women good? Well, okay, they want the same society as those, you know, barbaric, really puritanical forms of Islam. You know, I'm talking about the Taliban form of Islam. You know, you like that. That's your worldview. So you know, why are you conquering them?
listen to what he's saying. If you go back a little bit, he's talking about that the founding fathers they didn't give us a full democracy or republic for a reason. He's trying to make a he's advocate. I don't know. He's advocating. Let's hear what he's saying. Just a little bit.
In that the American form of government,
listen closely,
really includes aspects of all three types of government. There are three types of government: monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. And according to
listen.
ancient writer Polybius, those are the three good versions of that government. It's not that only one of those is good, the other two are terrible. All three can be good, but they have a corrupted version too. The corruption of monarchy is tyranny, the corruption of aristocracy is oligarchy, the corruption of democracy is mob rule. And
you are expressly for oligarchy, okay? Like, you're paid by fracking billionaires to spout the most grifty, erroneous nonsense, okay? So you can, you know, quiet yourself about corruption, my man.
He views this as a kind of cycle of regimes that is constantly going to evolve. So what the American founders and framers tried to do is establish a regime that includes aspects of all of them. You have a monarchical element in the strong executive and the president. You have an aristocratic element, certainly in the Senate and elsewhere in the government, a representation for the...
And they'll constantly, like, for acting like a king or like an autocrat, you know? So many contradictions.
Landed classes, especially when there were more stringent voting requirements. And it was just a...
Yeah, like when blacks and women couldn't vote. Oh.
Yeah, they used to pick coins when the Italians came here. The blacks stopped picking coins. They hired they took the. I'm talking serious history here, Free. I'm not making it up, man.
Well, it's true.
They were considered black. Italians were not even considered white. And Irish, though they're from the northern part of Europe, they were considered bad stock because they believed in the Pope. They thought the Pope was witchery and all that stuff. So they were treated like garbage. All of a sudden today, they are the gatekeepers of America. Everybody else is bad. The immigrants are bad, and they are the chosen ones. Come on, man. Stop.
Yeah. This is what the critical race theorists also said. Whiteness was a position you needed to move up to. You needed to, like, prove yourself to be worthy of whiteness. It's like, and you know, what is white at the end of the day? Because, you know, all these American Nazis say, oh, yeah, European culture shall be one ethno-state. And it's like, if you talk to European Nazis, they can't stand the other guy, you know, half a mile away from him. He's like an alien, like a different species. So to think Europe is this homogenous block,
no,
you're insane, man. Whiteness, it doesn't exist, man. It doesn't exist.
Italy itself, the northern Italy looks down on the southern Italians. The northern Italians think of themselves as more elites, more light skinned, more white. While the southern Italy, like Sicily and all, were mixed with the Africa and the Mediterranean. They don't even agree on each other. The whole idea is every time there's a group that try to wear that jacket, you know, that golf jacket when you win the tournament. Right now in Miami, you have the Cubans. The Cubans, you know, they wearing that jacket, they're intoxicated, you know, and all of that stuff. You know, it doesn't make no sense, man.
Yeah.
Every time one group gets a little bit of power, no, we are the gatekeepers. We have the deed to America. Everybody else does not belong, and we don't need them. Michael,
no less.
No less. I live in New York. I have lived with Italians. They are very good people, especially the old timers, the people who are still like not the young guys, okay, but the old timers. I dealt with them in business. They are the best people, kind. Dealt with Irish, the older Irish. They're very generous, But these people, the young ones, and some of these assholes, all of a sudden they get a little podcast. All of a sudden everybody's bad. They're good. The immigrants, those brown menace, they're no good. They invaded America. Shut up, man. Shut up.
You were the brown menace at one time.
They're called the WAP. They go ahead. Look at WOP. They used to call them WAPs without papers, man. It was these Italians. Italians were the most mistreated people in the United States. It's always been like that in the United States. The Anglo-Saxons hated the Germans because they thought they were going to change their culture. Once the Germans became Americans, they hated the Italians and they hated the Irish when the Irish started coming. Then the Italians and Irish, they lived together because they were hated. Why do you think in New York most of the cops are Irish and the sanitations are Irish? because these are jobs nobody wanted in the 1920s. They were considered low-grade jobs. To be a police officer in New York was nothing. It was garbage. Or to be, all of a sudden, then things change for the better. It's good. I'm not knocking down the communities as a whole, but I just don't like certain aspects from that community. All of a sudden now we're wearing that jacket, that jacket we got now. We're part of that. We made it to the club. Now we're going to lock the door on everybody else. Don't do that, man. Because, I mean, me and Michael knows I would pass white before he would pass. Maybe when I start talking, they know I'm a foreigner because my language is a little mixed up a little bit here and there, or because my tongue. But in the long run, you have to accept others.
Yeah.
The only way to succeed as a country is to be a multicultural country where people bring a little bit of their own flavor to the table and their own knowledge, and we create this beautiful product called America. Every group, every ethnicity that came here has brought something to the table. You understand?
Yeah.
My people, I'm from Yemen. We first immigrated to the United States in 1869, according to the census. They wouldn't give us any citizenship unless we fought in World War I and World War II. For that, they used to give us citizenship. Then we had to sue because, let me give you a little story. The Arabs over here, there was a police officer, Arab police officer, arrested a white guy in California. You can look it up, how we became white, how we Arabs became white in the United States. This is a strange story. So the father sued the police officer that he's not allowed to arrest his son because he's not white and he's not a citizen. You understand? It went to the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court, then the Arabs sued. They said that we need to be identified and classified. What are we? Because they only had three classification: yellow, black, and orange. A yellow, they considered, you know, the Asians at that time. It's a racist term, but at that time.
Yeah.
And they did a study, and they said Arabs are white. It's the Supreme Court. The whole idea, it's not the matter who you are or what color. I mean, color should not be an ethnicity or anything. Your deeds, I mean, what you do. I mean, how, I mean, I don't understand what's going on, man. Social media.
I don't know if you've seen this George Carlin routine because it's always a distraction. Okay. It's always a distraction by the rich. Race, you know, gender. Sexuality, religion, all this.
How do you think white became a race? In 1676, they had the Bacon Rebellion here in Virginia, where it started bad because the Mr. Bacon, the guy who led the revolt against the whites, he wanted to get rid of the Indians and take their land. The people said no, so he gathered all the slaves, all the indentured servants, and they attacked the Jamestown, and they attacked the white elites and kicked them out and destroyed and burned down the whole city. So in 1672, the first term of white started coming in the you know, within the conversation, like the Oxford said the first time. Then they had to pull the poor whites toward them. That time, the white elites decided to use poor whites as a vehicle to get to where they want to go, make them vote. You know, get them to vote dumb against the other. There you go. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
With all the fun. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society.
Let me play from the beginning.
Now, to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different.
They're distractions. They're red herrings.
From one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the
That's right.
Fairly simple.
That's exactly right.
To work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education.
Yeah, look up the idea of bourgeois nationalism. This is an academic concept, and, you know, Carlin's using it in his routine here.
Social status, sexuality, anything you can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
It's class, people. It's class, okay? I want to just finish this no less video because, you know, we're at the end of it.
This guy stops running right outside the frame of the camera. He can see the camera too. He's a little bit further out. He goes, "Hey guys, you want to come over here?" I said, "No." He goes, "Oh, can you give me some money?" I said, "No." He goes, "Oh." He goes, "Can you pray for me?" We said, "Yes." Yes, we can pray.
Thoughts and prayers. I'll give you my thoughts and prayers. You know, every time one of these gun lobbyists and one of their shareholders and their executives, if one of their children like gets cancer or something, you know, don't give them chemo. Give them your thoughts and prayers, and your prayers and your thoughts and your thoughts and your prayers. Not anything effective, not anything that actually works. Just your thoughts and your prayers. And you know, all these conservatives complaining about the wokies, the trans, the you know, the blacks, you know, infiltrating their culture, and you know how they're being manipulated. Well, maybe everything you hold dear is going to but I'll give you my thoughts and my prayers and my prayers and my thoughts. Okay, well, you know, I don't mean to disparage religion, but we can pray and at the same time get legislation passed, okay? Can we do both? I mean, that's what I'm saying, okay?
Absolutely. And I kid you not, he goes, "Can you pray for me over here?" he's,
I don't know what he's talking about at this point.
Still trying to like, "Hey, come on over here so I can jump you and steal your money." This was 2 blocks off Beale Street, the main part of Memphis, okay?
I think Matt Walsh is slightly dumber, but yeah.
Crazy.
So I don't think Memphis is going to be served by taking cops off the streets. I think probably Memphis needs many more cops on the street.
Oh, more cops. Oh, that's what solves crime. That's what solves crime.
You see, you see where the sickness was?
You still need training. You still need high standards. And you still need justice served. I mean, you can't...
Don't you notice, because they're black cop, they had no standards, they had no good training. Yeah. There was a white cop, oh, wasn't that the guy was bad? He was talking back to them. They had to defend themselves.
Yeah, he was a thug.
We don't know what was going on before the cameras went on. He probably was, you know, he had a knife in his hand. Those white cops had to react. But with the black cops, you know, it's standard. It's affirmative action, and you know, we got to mix the police station. After Black Lives Matter, we had to hire anybody we see in the street. So it's all about bad hiring. You understand what they do?
Yeah, and this is a good argument against, you know, racial ethno-states, because that's what this guy fundamentally believes. Okay. Well, you're saying that there's still disparate treatment of minorities, even amongst these, you know, racially concentrated areas, these predominantly, you know, black spheres. So doesn't that mean diversity is fundamentally a good thing? Because, okay, if racism persists, you know, even in these black spheres, and if we, you know, integrate, then that doesn't make a difference now, does it? It's almost like racism is beyond skin deep. It's more this underlying system that just needs to be extirpated from society, right? Yeah. But, you know, maybe that's crazy talk, okay? Anyway, Dave Rubin...
So that I can't